Hello, my name is Frank Zvanek, and I'm a senior consultant with Plan Pilot. Joining me today is Alex Whipple with AON Risk Solutions. Alex, please tell us some about yourself and why you're here with us today.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Alex Whipple. I am a commercial insurance broker for AON Risk Solutions. I am a member of the Professional Risk Solutions team within AON, which essentially means that I focus on cyber risk transfer for my clients.
So Alex, why is cybersecurity so important?
More and more companies are seeing this as a board-level issue, and in response, they are issuing an enterprise-wide view of cybersecurity, so it's no longer just a conversation within your IT department. That increased conversation is warranted when we look at our increase that we've seen in claims and losses. On a personal note, if you've ever had your data compromised, you know how important it is for companies to have adequate security around the information that they collect on their customers and employees. From a company's standpoint, we've seen increase in losses looking at data breaches like Equifax is a great example, or the FedEx business interruption loss. So it's important for companies to have proper cybersecurity in place to protect their bottom line.
So Alex, what types of attacks are we likely to see?
I'll categorize these into two buckets. So thinking about it from an internal perspective, the exposure that your employees create. And this could be non-malicious, like in the example of a social engineering loss, or it could be malicious, like what we consider to be a bad leaver, which is basically an employee that leaves the company and takes data with them. And then there's also an exposure that external parties create for a company. So this could be things like a malware or ransomware attack. There's a great example of the WannaCry and Pet Ya Not Pet Ya recent attacks, and those were worldwide ransomware attacks which encrypted computers and asked for ransom payment. Some studies estimate that these two attacks actually cost the world over $5 billion in losses.
So you mentioned some pretty staggering numbers there. What are the impacts of the attacks usually?
To simplify, I'll try and put these into two buckets. So there's the first party costs in the event of a breach. If it were a data breach, this would be things like notification costs, public relations, crisis management, and forensics. There's also potential for regulatory fines and penalties in the event that you had data that was wrongfully accessed. There's also could be resulting business interruption losses if you have a significant network downtime. You could be losing net income or facing extra expenses because of that downtime. And then lastly, there's reputational harm, which a lot of companies find that to be a pretty significant impact on their company's bottom line. The second bucket is your third-party costs. So in the event that you did have data that's wrongfully accessed, you could be involved in a lawsuit because of that. So this would include things like defense and damages in the event of that lawsuit. So the combination of the first-party costs and the third-party costs can be quite significant, and that's really why we recommend most of our clients purchase a cyber policy.
You mentioned a cyber policy. What types of insurance coverage are available?
The insurance policy is designed to cover both the first-party and the third-party costs. So from a third-party perspective, you have your breach event expenses, which would include things like crisis management, public relations, forensics, etc. There's also coverage for an extortion, so that could be a Bitcoin payment in the event that you were involved in an extortion attack, and again, the forensics that may come along with that. There's also coverage for the regulatory fines and penalties in the event that those were placed on you because of the data breach. And there's also business interruption in the event that you had a significant network outage and you had lost net income or extra expenses, you could claim a loss under your business interruption insuring agreement. From a third-party perspective, there's also your defense and damages coverage in the event that you were involved in a lawsuit because of the data breach. It's important to note here that there is no standard cyber form in the marketplace, and that's really why at AON we find it's incredibly important to have a broker that specializes specifically in cyber so that we can make sure that the policy is manuscripted to respond to your specific cyber exposure.
How can a professional like AON assist in prevention?
There are companies like Strauss Friedberg, which is now an AON company, which specialize in risk mitigation services for their clients. So this could be things like tabletop exercises, vulnerability testing. They can even help you draft up an incident response plan. And then there's brokers like myself at AON, and we focus, like I mentioned before, on the cyber risk transfer piece of the puzzle. This includes things like manuscripting language to make sure that it's going to respond and that we're shifting as much risk as desired to a policy. We also serve as an advisor to our clients, so we can help with things like what limits are appropriate to purchase, what specific manuscripted language we should place in a policy, and even from a claims reporting, we can be a consultant in that.
What should a plan sponsor and a record keeper do if they believe an attack has occurred?
Sure, that's a great question and something that you want to make sure you're addressing before you have a breach. Assuming that you have a cyber policy in place, best next step is to call that hotline. Most insurance companies at this point have a 24/7 breach hotline that will connect you with experts in the data breach world, and they can advise on best next steps, which likely would be to shut down your network to avoid the attack continuing to expand through your network. Second step is to call your broker, again, assuming you have a broker, but we would then formally notice the breach to your cyber insurance company. So some insurance carriers don't consider calling the hotline to actually formally notice your policy, and that's where your broker would come in to notice on your behalf. Lastly, we recommend that our clients have a written out incident response plan, and this would outline the steps that should be taken in the event that you did have a data breach and can help you be better prepared.
Alex, thank you for that enlightening presentation. There's a lot there for plan sponsors to think about. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching.